Again, getting to the heart of making sure we're preventing increased flooding. This amendment keeps the focus of mitigation within a given watershed. Given that to be able to benefit, the mitigation changes that are in this bill allow for new wetlands to be created, not necessarily within that watershed, not necessarily within a neighboring watershed. You could build it anywhere. The purpose of having mitigation, having a new wetland, is to make sure that the water has someplace to go. This is something where I realize that you may end up saying, oh, this is a problem because if there's not one in the area, that was the issue in the past. But the fact is, if we don't have a new watershed or a new wetland within that watershed with a drainage area, it's not going to automatically cross 50 miles to the new wetland. That water's going to go someplace. And if you don't have proper mitigation, it's going to go on the property that you're building on or to a neighboring property. So this amendment, Amendment 2147, is all about making sure that we're preventing flooding for our neighbors. This might not come back and bite us immediately, but in time it absolutely will. That the flooding will happen if the water doesn't have someplace to go. When we heard testimony on this, we heard about some of the stories of people who could not build on neighboring wetlands. Well, not everybody who wants to build on a wetland should be able to. Our laws should make sure that you are not going to build on a place where then FEMA is going to have to bail you out when you have a flood come to town, or that the federal government's not, or the state government's not going to have to bail you out. So that's what this does. It makes sure that the water stays within the watershed, making sure that any mitigation actually benefits that area specifically, and isn't just mitigation for the sake of mitigation's sake, someplace on the other side of the state where it's not actually going to benefit where the changes happen.
I don't totally disagree with you on this one, Senator. But the bill, as it's written now, creates and allows for a rules process for the Department of Natural Resources to come up with geographic regions, watershed areas for the different parts of the states to create mitigation banks. That's the intent of the bill, and that's what's going to be happening. So they will be offering these options in those given areas that are in that same watersheds that it would be adjacent to or whatever to where these proposals are. So, I mean, we have to let the process work. That's the intent of the bill, it's in the bill, and that is what's going to be happening with them. So, I mean, technically, it is covering your issue.
Mr. Chairman, I see where you're going. I see that there's definitely an intention, and I appreciate that, for making sure we are preventing flooding, but I don't want to leave it up to the DNR to come up with. I think we can tackle this right here and nip this in the bud. Make sure that we're preventing flooding right now, and making sure that it's within that area. That's what I'd like to do, is to settle this and not leave it up to bureaucrats.
Well, I guess, my opinion is that there will be times where the mitigation may be more beneficial outside of that watershed, where it's not as advantageous as it would be elsewhere, as deemed by the department through the establishment of these additional mitigation banks. And so this really, ties the hands somewhat. So, as I said, that's going to be part of the review process and part of that determination by the DNR. And again, the rules are written in here purposely for the sole intent and reason of establishing those areas, just like you were asking or stating in your intent of your amendment. So I will be voting against the amendment, but we're on the same page.
Well, we are, except for the first part of what you just said. You said that there's going to be times where you don't want to mitigate within the watershed. And if you're going to allow for the DNR to do that, that's the whole intention of this amendment, is making sure that it's within that same area.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but there are going to be, you probably will see, and this is just hypothetical, this is just a generalization, a lot of mitigation programs would probably, in many cases, in most cases, it probably would wind up being of a greater necessity, perhaps, in southeastern Wisconsin, where there's been a lot of population and development over time, versus some of the further reaches of Wisconsin in areas that really don't have large populations, don't have big industrialized centers and so on. And maybe, as I said, the option may work out better. That's why let's let the experts make that determination in this case. Not just say, no, you can't do it elsewhere, and you're saying, but boy, we really could use it there, and you're saying, no, I have to do it here, my hands are tied. So, again, that's the basis of my reasoning and why I'm going to be voting against the amendment. Any further discussion? If not,